Right now at 6, authorities serve search warrants at 2 convenience stores as part of a gambling investigation.
And we've got a cold start out there. Clouds increasing today. One more good day of melting before a temperature drop this weekend. A look at your forecast coming up.
And later, Missouri researchers test beet juice to replace road salt.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News at 6 a.m. I'm Samantha Walker.
And I'm Chris Warner. It is Thursday, January the 29th. We've been talking about 4th and Broadway, downtown Pittsburgh, some police activity there. We were just looking. It appears as though they're beginning to clear the scene. We still aren't sure what was going on, but they did have 4th Street closed, but they're beginning to clear, so they're reopening 4th Street in that area. And, of course, we're working to get information. If we find out what went on, we'll certainly let you know. And we didn't show it simply because we didn't know what was going on, and we don't want to show where all the officers were during that situation. But we'll try and get some information and let you know. The other thing that we have gathered information on and has been pretty consistent is it's winter and it's cold.
It's cold.
It's been pretty darn cold. We got some melting down. I let the kids out a little longer yesterday because we were a little closer to 40 degrees. And we'll be pretty decent again today ahead of another big drop in our temperatures. Let's start, though, with our live look downtown Pittsburgh, where, again, right now, looking good. And like I said, the police vehicles, they began exiting the scene. So we'll try and figure out what was going on down there and get you all updated on that. In the meantime, roads are clear. Skies, we've got some thin clouds out there. We're going partly cloudy already. Westco camera, 7th and range line in Joplin, looking good as well as we get this day started. Again, main roads are all looking pretty good, but those rural and back roads are the ones that have the concerns. That's why we still have some school closings down there for today. So if you got kids, you got to be prepared for them to be at home. I know in Joplin they sent out a message to expect buses to be late this morning. They said they ran the buses on the routes yesterday, and as long as they were cautious, they were okay through the neighborhood streets. But just be prepared for those delays out there. And you also still want to watch out. See those shiny spots here and there? You still want to watch out for that potential for black ice in some locations as well. MoDOT camera, 20th and range line. Looking good, looking back to the south. Let's take a look at our fog tracker. We've got some light fog in the parts of southeast Kansas, so not a major concern with freezing fog, but if this fog were to get overly dense, that's where we could be dealing with some serious issues with freezing fog, because that's going to impact you regardless and can lead to a thin sheet of ice on the roadways, especially the ones that are clear. Temperatures, 27 in Joplin, 25 in Pittsburgh right now, and around the region, most of us are in the low to mid 20s. We do have some upper 20s. A couple of warmer spots, though. Bentonville, Cassville, both at 31. Monette and Neosho, both at 30 this morning. But then you factor in that light breeze, and we've got wind chills into the teens and 20s out there. So another very cold feeling start to the day. Future track between about 11 and 2 with an approaching low pressure. Could get, it's the wrong button, that's the third time in the last month. We could get couple of stray flurries, a little drizzle, light wintry mix, nothing significant expected, but don't be surprised if you see that. And we'll have those clouds increasing, going mostly cloudy through the majority of our day. For those kids who are going to school, we're looking at low 20s, partly cloudy skies, again, maybe a few flurries around lunch and recess, and we reach our high temperatures early in the day and then level out for a bit. So we're looking at going into the mid to upper 30s, maybe some low 40s down south, mostly cloudy through the evening, east winds gusting to 20. As that low pressure tracks off to our east, winds shift out of the north, temperatures begin to drop, and that leads to new ice concerns as we head into the weekend. Details on that in just a few more minutes. Samantha?
Chris, thanks. A car overturned in a crash near Asbury yesterday morning. Just before 9 a.m., 911 received reports of a vehicle flipped over on Sumac Road, just west of Missouri 43 in Jasper County. The Missouri State Highway Patrol says a Chevy Malibu traveled off the left side of the road, hit a fence and a tree before overturning. The crash remains under investigation. Well, warrants were served at the Galaxy Food Mart locations in Columbus and Weir, Kansas yesterday. According to authorities, evidence was seized in connection with illegal gambling activities that were taking place at both locations. The case is part of an ongoing investigation of illegal gambling operations in southeast Kansas. The sheriff's office says their findings in the case will be submitted to the Cherokee County Attorney's Office. Well, scammers are looking to take advantage of you during tax season, and the Better Business Bureau wants you to stay one step ahead. One scheme involving a company called Anderson Tate and Associates out of the Kansas City area has generated nearly 700 complaints and prompted an investigation. Scammers are using aggressive tactics, sending threatening emails, demanding payment within hours to avoid legal action. They cite fake case numbers and threaten wage garnishment, credit bureau reporting, and even jail time, all illegal under federal debt collection laws. If a suspicious collector contacts you, do not make an immediate payment. The Better Business Bureau has some more red flags you can watch out for online. Well, millions of Americans are still digging out from snow and ice and bundling up, with the deep freeze gripping much of the country. That means getting around can be dangerous. In Missouri, a van landed upside down after sliding off a highway. At least 50 people have died from these winter storm conditions or weather-related accidents. Well, road salt corrodes our cars and damages bridges, costing millions in repairs. But now Missouri S&T researchers are testing beet juice as a natural alternative with a $450,000 MoDOT grant. Garrett Hamilton shows us how this sweet solution could change winter road maintenance.
After a big snowstorm, how many times have you noticed the buildup of salt and other road treatment chemicals on the side of your car? Well, this car isn't in that bad of shape. However, it is corrosive, and it's just one of the things that student research and faculty researchers alike tell me that they are closely examining as they look for alternative snow and ice melt methods.
There's lots of roads here, and we use salt on those roads all the time. So knowing what the impacts of that are and knowing how we can lessen those impacts is very important. And to see, is something they're already putting on the road actually doing more harm than good?
Kaylee Denbo is a master's student studying environmental engineering at Missouri S&T in Rolla. She's part of a team researching how to reduce or replace traditional salt treatment methods paid for through a $450,000 grant from MoDOT. For Denbo, Dr. Joel Birkin, and other graduate students, this research is about changing the ratio of salt and beet juice, which they believe will help ice melt better than traditional methods.
By adding the beet juice in and having the beet salt brine mixture, we can actually de-ice and anti-ice at lower temperatures that we have less impact on the environment, as the beet juice is a natural organic material.
And so far, preliminary results have shown beet juice made the recent snowfall easier to clear, at least on the small scale on a campus sidewalk. But further testing is needed before any compounds can be used on Missouri roads and before conclusive results can be made about environmental impacts. And these aren't the only things that are being studied. Dr. Kamal Kayat walked me through some of his students' research on the impact of traditional salt melting methods on the structure of concrete, which were done by putting concrete blocks through freeze and thaw cycles while being covered in salt solutions.
And we look at the scaling of the concrete. You can see here a sample that is under testing. The finished surface is intact versus another sample that is here, where you could see some of the paste that is starting to be scaled out, eroded.
And he says his research is not just limited to the structure of concrete. Traditional bridges are designed for a 75 to 100 year lifespan, and the number one cause of damage is corrosion of the steel by road salts. The team hopes the beet juice mixture will lead to less corrosion.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather coming up on the KOAM Morning News. Bipartisan calls for a cabinet secretary to be fired or impeached following a deadly shooting. Plus, from beloved TV characters returning to legal troubles, to protest songs, to royal film screenings. And colder temperatures return this weekend. Chris has a look at your weekly forecast. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is facing fresh criticism following Saturday's deadly shooting in Minneapolis by federal agents. In the wake of the shooting, Senate Democrats say they'll not support funding DHS without additional restrictions on ICE, and that could lead to a partial government shutdown this weekend. Erica Brown is on Capitol Hill with the details.
There are new calls Wednesday for DHS Secretary Kristi Noem to be fired or face impeachment proceedings in the wake of Saturday's shooting death of Alex Preddy by federal agents.
She clearly doesn't know how to manage. She's never managed a large organization, and she's failing at every possible measure of the job.
Republican Senators Tom Tillis and Lisa Murkowski have joined congressional Democrats who are calling for her ouster, even as President Trump continues to stand by her.
Confidence in them? As long as the president does, I'll support it.
Other Republicans are calling for an independent investigation.
At no point in time do I see an assault, and I don't think anybody in America believes he was assaulting those officers.
The backlash to the Minneapolis shooting has led to a showdown here on Capitol Hill. Senate Democrats are vowing not to fund the Department of Homeland Security unless reforms to immigration and customs enforcement are put in place.
Rein in ICE and end the violence. That's our goal.
Lawmakers have until the end of Friday to reach a deal or face a partial government shutdown, something both sides say they want to avoid.
Americans want accountability, so let's have a separate vote and a separate debate.
I think the administration is willing to sit down with them and have a discussion, perhaps a negotiation about how do we move forward. But the one thing I do know, and that is that a government shutdown is not in anybody's interest.
Congress has already passed 6 bills to fund various parts of the government, but 6 more remain.
Well, besides funding for Homeland Security, bills to fund the Department of Transportation and the Pentagon also remain. Well, still to come, the latest research on whether some common painkillers are safe for babies. That story just ahead in Health Watch. Plus, colder temperatures return this weekend. Chris has a look at your Thursday forecast. A sneak peek at the new Ted Lasso, a movie screening fit for a royal, and a new song by Bruce Springsteen. Gwen Baumgarten has your Eye on Entertainment report.
The lovable Ted Lasso returns. Apple TV released these photos teasing the premiere of Ted Lasso Season 4. The new season comes out this summer and will focus on women's soccer. Singer Chris Brown spent time in a London courtroom this week. He's accused of assaulting a music producer at a nightclub in 2023. Brown has pleaded not guilty to the charges. The trial is set for October. Bruce Springsteen used social media to announce the release of a new song called Streets of Minneapolis.
Citizens stood for justice.
The song protests the current ICE operations underway in the city and the fatal shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Throughout his career, Springsteen has written songs addressing political and social issues. And turns out Hamnet has a royal fan. Britain's Queen Camilla took part in a special London screening, meeting some of the cast before joining the film's costume designer for a private tour. Hamnet won 2 Golden Globes and has 8 Oscar nominations. That's your Eye on Entertainment. Gwen Baumgartner, CBS News, Los Angeles.
It'll be exciting to see what this season of Ted Lasso looks like. I know they did some filming in Kansas City, so it'll be cool to see that as well. Well, now here's Chris with a quick look at your forecast.
Yeah, again, pretty chilly start out there. We got some winds bringing our wind chills down. We're going to get another day of melting in, and then temperatures drop into the upcoming weekend. A full look at your forecast when we come back. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News, 6:21 on this Thursday morning, starting with the future tracks. That low pressure we talked about a couple of days ago with you, that was going to track just south of our area. It's going to track just a smidge further north, not significantly. And it will also bring us an opportunity between approximately 11 and 2, could get flurry, light wintry mix, a little drizzle in some locations. Is it going to be exactly where Future Track is showing? Not necessarily, but Future Track's hinting it's a possibility. I just realized too, we look for shapes in clouds, okay? This is like a weird shaped star or maybe a dinosaur in terms of what that precipitation looks like. Outside of that, though, clouds will increase. We'll have mostly cloudy skies today. The low pressure by 5 has lifted just a bit east-northeast. So by noon, it's near Tulsa. Here it comes up. It's near Cassville, Bentonville by this evening. And, of course, flow around the low pressure is counterclockwise, so winds will begin to shift out of the north on us as we go late evening and overnight. And that's going to bring in much colder air tonight into the upcoming weekend. For Friday, Future Track's painting quite a few few clouds. We may not have as many. They were going to start to clear as we head into the afternoon, but we will see. Otherwise, we're dry, so even if we do have the clouds, we don't need to worry about that. But we're still going to have gusty north winds at about 20 miles an hour. Should clear out a bit for Saturday, more sunshine, and even though we're going to get that sunshine, it's going to be even colder Saturday than what it's going to be tomorrow, and tomorrow is going to be 10 to 15 degrees colder than today, thanks to that low pressure, those cold winds pushing through out of the north. So let's talk about today. Low 20s to start, low 30s by 11, and again, light flurry chances, a possibility, so we've thrown that up there, but it is a low probability, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Highs today for most of us into the upper 30s. Some of our southern counties, though, could be a little warmer into the low 40s, and we're going to have east winds 5 to 10, gusting upwards of about 20 miles an hour. Into the evening, mostly cloudy skies, and then as those winds shift out of the north, here comes the cold air. We're back down about 15 tonight, north winds 5 to 10. As I mentioned, those north winds will pick up tomorrow, start gusting upwards of 20, and we're only going to make the mid-20s. So that's going to keep our wind chills about 5 to 15 above zero throughout the day. Then we're down to 4, 8, 12 for these lows. Highs, which at a 20-degree point here means, some of you upper teens, some low 20s. Got some upper 20s for Sunday. So our new concern, though, as we head from tonight into the weekend is anything that's been melting. We've been seeing some clearing. Some of the roadways were actually wet this morning. Despite how cold it is, it was actually liquid on the roads. But we're concerned about that refreezing. We're worried about, even on the main roads, we could get some patchy ice out there as we head into the weekend. So, again, it's not going to be, I don't think, anything we're going to have to shut the world down for, like last weekend's snow. But you want to be cautious if you're traveling this weekend. You got to watch out for those slick spots because some refreezing, even on some of those clear roads, is going to be a concern. Same with neighborhood streets, back roads. Some of them are clear in spots and not in others, and anything that melts could freeze and give you that layer of black ice out there. Now, the good news is next week, that looks better. Liquid rain chances Tuesday and Wednesday. I want to emphasize that it will not be frozen precipitation, but some shower chances out there. Temperatures into the 40s, maybe even low 50s by next weekend. That is a check of your forecast. We're going to send it over to Samantha now with Health Watch.
Thanks, Chris. January is National Blood Donor Month, and the blood supply is critically low right now. The American Red Cross has declared a severe shortage after the supply dropped 35% in the past month. Bradley Blackburn reports.
Critical blood shortages are being reported around the country. The racks are nearly empty at this New York Blood Center storage hub.
We are currently in a blood emergency, which is the equivalent of approximately 2 days worth of blood on the area hospital shelves.
With the urgent need, Tina's Titans and Vinny's Army joined forces and organized this blood drive. Valentina has a rare, serious blood disorder. Vinny is a kidney cancer survivor who needed over 30 transfusions during his battle.
3 or 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 10, and so I had to go through so much treatment, and we needed to give back to the community, so we founded Vinny's Army.
The nation usually sees a drop in donations around this time of year because people don't donate over the holidays. Bad weather and illnesses also get in the way, and high schools and colleges have breaks and aren't hosting drives. The New York Blood Center calls the low blood supply concerning.
It definitely impacts the treatment of patients that are coming in for emergency situations, surgery patients, patients that are being treated for leukemia or cancer. If the platelets and stuff aren't there, we have to work to find them or transfer them from other blood banks.
Kelly Smeltz heard about this drive and made an appointment. She rolls up her sleeve to donate a couple of times a year.
Just a little bit of your time and you can help people, and that's really kind of amazing.
Donate, donate, donate. We need as many people as we can to get into their blood centers.
Because just 1 pint of blood can save as many as 3 lives. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
It's estimated 3 in 5 people are eligible to donate blood, but only 3 in 100 people do. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. We'll be right back. Right now at 6:30, Joplin residents learn how to gather signatures for voting rights.
And we've got a chilly start out there. Clouds increasing. Could even see a couple of light flurries this afternoon. Details coming up.
Plus, Missouri lawmakers consider a bill that would bring changes to solid waste management.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News at 6:29. I'm Samantha Walker.
And I'm Chris Warner. It is now Thursday, January the 29th. Happy Thursday to everybody out there. And we'll get a little more melting done today. Not that much, but we'll get some done. There's still quite a bit of snow out there. I know there's a number of schools still canceled today, especially those in rural areas or that serve rural areas. Still having some problems with those back roads. I know Joplin schools put out an email this morning, or yesterday actually. They ran the buses on the bus routes because the neighborhood streets in Joplin are still
a little
iffy. Yeah. The main roads have been clear since Monday of Tuesday.
I'm looking at the main lane.
It's not been too bad. It's those neighborhood streets that get you. So do be cautious, of course, if you're traveling. Watch out for black ice, still a potential this morning. And we have bigger concerns for ice as we head into the weekend, not falling from the sky, but reforming on the roads. We'll talk about that a little later. But first, today, with our live look from downtown Pittsburgh. And we're looking pretty good this morning. We've already got some partly cloudy skies out there. We'll have mostly cloudy skies through the day. Westco cameras, 7th and Range Line in Joplin, looking fine. KDOT camera south of Pittsburgh, 69-400, and they have, again, repositioned it. It's looking now north along 69, but you see these shiny spots here, and you see these wet spots here. That's what you've got to watch out for. Black ice is still a concern, and it could be a bigger concern because you see the snow that's down here in the center of the road where people don't drive. Well, we could see that melt, and then this weekend we could see some refreezing. We'll talk again about this weekend in the full forecast a little later. First, though, one more look from 20th and Range Line. MoDOT camera there. Looks good so far. Folks getting their day underway. We have had some light fog in parts of southeast Kansas. Our concerns are if we get denser fog, it could lead to some freezing fog concern, not frogs, but fog, and that causes its own issues because you're traveling through that dense fog and it's freezing fog. It's going to keep refreezing on your windshield, makes it difficult to drive. I can freeze on the roadways. Thankfully, nothing too dense, though, this morning. 27 in Joplin, 25 in Pittsburgh. Quick look at temperatures around the region. They look like this. We're into the 20s, low, mid, and upper 20s, and we have Monette and Bentonville, the warm spots, both at 31. Cassville sitting at 30 degrees this morning, but then you factor in the wind. Those wind chills are not so nice, though. Look at that 10 in Iola. It's our coldest wind chill out there. We got some teens. We got some low 20s. So even in spots where it's a little warmer, it feels cold, just like everybody else. Low pressure system's going to pass right on our southern fringe, and so between approximately 11 and 2, could get a brief wintry mix, couple of light flurries, maybe a little drizzle, depending on your temperature situation. By 4 or 5 o'clock, that low pressure now around Bentonville, Cassville, and it will begin to exit the region. On the backside of it, though, winds will shift out of the north. That's going to lead to much colder temperatures tonight into the weekend. Kids that are going to school today, low 20s as you head out the door, mid 30s, lunch and recess, and as you head home, a couple of flurries out there because we're going to end up reaching our highs pretty early today, and then we'll level out for a bit before that low tracks on through, and temperatures will start to drop later this evening, so upper 30s and east winds gusting to 20. Still breezy tomorrow, considerably colder. We'll go over those details with you in just a few more minutes. Samantha?
Chris, thanks. Missouri voters mobilized to protect their petition rights as a statewide coalition brings its fight to Joplin. Respect Mo voters held a town hall about protecting Missouri's Citizens Initiative petition process. The group says they want to prevent politicians from overturning voter-approved measures and using ballot language that may confuse voters. The coalition says they're seeking 800 volunteers to help gather 300,000 petition signatures by spring. This event not only helped train attendees to collect signatures that could lead to a new Missouri constitutional amendment, but also educated residents about their constitutional rights. The Missouri House is considering a bill that would bring changes to solid waste management. The legislation proposes a $2.50 tipping fee per ton at landfills starting October 2027. The bill would also eliminate solid waste management districts, including Region M in Southwest Missouri.
They don't check for any kind of utility bill or anything like that because they receive funding from the district. But if that funding was to go away, they're not going to accept, items at their recycle center from everybody just because the cost of having to handle these items is too expensive.
The bill allocates $5 million annually for landfill cleanup and $800,000 for market development. Region M officials say the change threatens recycling centers in smaller cities and increases costs for larger communities like Joplin. The district board approved a resolution opposing the bill. If passed, the district shut down August 28th. Well, in Pittsburgh, a toddler approaches his second birthday in February, but his family faces a different reality than most. Benny suffered a near-fatal incident at his daycare in June 2024. Benny now struggles with a neurological disorder. The daycare workers were charged with misdemeanor crimes. This prompted Benny's parents to create Benny's Bill, which you can learn more about on KOAMnewsnow.com. Well, a St. Louis County teacher is recovering, thanks in part to the actions of a group of high school students. Caroline Hecker reports.
Blood pressure, 92/58.
Down this hill, inside a garage,
I'll palpate his abdomen.
is a group of students pursuing a career of helping others.
Sir, can you hear me?
South Tech's firefighter and EMT program is made up of high school students from across the area, preparing them for the real world before they even graduate high school.
Can I get a pulse on you?
But for these four friends, that real-world experience came one day last fall. The group was studying here in the garage when they heard yelling coming from the nearby hill.
All of a sudden we heard people yelling that they need EMTs.
They jumped up, making their way up the hill to see what was going on.
And we're like, where's he at, where's he at? We see like a Dunkin' cup off the side, and we like start swiveling our heads, and we look down on the embankment, and the patient's there bleeding.
The boys say a teacher from another class tripped going down the hill, hitting his head and rolling down an embankment.
He was awake from what I could see, but he wasn't like alert to what was happening around him. I gave him a little sternum rub to see if he would respond to that, which he didn't.
Immediately, the four friends began triaging, while other students called 911.
The skills that we learned, I think, helped a lot. Like it was muscle memory. We were down and in it, and we were doing it, and I think we helped.
Meanwhile, Fenton Fire Protection District was on its way. Its job made much easier and quicker thanks to the students' training.
They knew to keep the scene safe, they knew to help out and try to stabilize the patient, and then they knew that our paramedics coming in, they knew what information that they would be looking for.
The man suffered serious injuries but is recovering. The experience, one the boys say, has solidified their career choice.
It really showed me that I want to really pursue this career, and I'm able to help as much as I can.
For now, it's back to training with the dummy.
I'm going to put him on a backboard as well.
Ready for that next call, whenever.
That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. Major social media companies face a lawsuit that could change how they operate. Plus, the Federal Reserve Board makes a decision on interest rates. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. In Consumer Watch, major social media companies face a potential landmark trial over claims that their platforms are addictive to teens. The case targets Meta platforms, TikTok and YouTube. The companies face accusations from a 19-year-old plaintiff claiming the sites are attention-grabbing by design, which led to heightening depression and thoughts of suicide. The case could test the limits of a federal law that many companies use to prove they are not liable for what their users post. The case is one of many against social media companies set to go on trial this year. Well, the Federal Reserve is kicking off 2026 without changing interest rates, keeping borrowing costs steady. But economists say the bigger story is what comes next, including potential rate cuts later this year and the political pressures shaping the central bank's decisions. Bradley Blackburn reports.
At the first Fed meeting of the year, there was no relief for Americans who borrow money. Federal Reserve governors voted to keep the benchmark interest rate steady at 3.5% to 3.75%.
We see the current stance of monetary policy as appropriate to promote progress toward both our maximum employment and 2% inflation goals.
The rate is down from over 5% in 2024, but the Fed is holding off on more cuts, pointing to solid economic growth and still elevated inflation. CBS business analyst Jill Schlesinger says policymakers are taking a wait-and-see approach.
think that the Fed is really stuck right now because they don't have enough data that tips the balance in one direction or the other.
Schlesinger says steady rates can be good news for savers, but not for borrowers.
You look at the average credit card balance interest rate, it's over 19%. Personal loans are still very expensive.
The decision comes with mounting political pressure on the independent central bank. President Trump has publicly pushed for rate cuts, and the Justice Department has opened an investigation into Fed Chair Jerome Powell over a multi-billion-dollar renovation project at the Fed's D.C. headquarters. President Trump also tried to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook last year, a case that's now before the Supreme Court.
I would say that that case is perhaps the most important legal case in the Fed's 113-year history.
Powell's term as Fed chair ends in May, and the White House is expected to announce a successor soon. The next meeting on interest rates is in March. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Now today in sports, Pittsburgh State's 11th ranked women hosted Northeastern State at John Lance Arena. The Gorillas trimmed the halftime deficit to 1 after freshman Maureen Adams hit a buzzer-beater 3, then opened the second half on a 13-0 run to build a 12-point lead. Northeastern State responded with a big run of its own, forcing turnovers and taking the lead on a Gabrielle Tilley layup. Jemiah Brown led Pittsburgh State with 22 points and hit a late 3, but the Riverhawks held on to upset the Gorillas 80-76. While Pittsburgh State's men looked to salvage a split of the doubleheader against Northeastern State, the Gorillas opened on a 10-0 run with freshman Ethan Sage scoring inside, then Mason English extending the lead with a fadeaway off the glass. Pitt State kept rolling from the perimeter as Donald Coates and Connor Roger each knocked down early threes to set the tone. The Gorillas controlled the game wire to wire, defeating the Riverhawks 93-77. Pittsburgh girls hit the road to face Carl Junction in the third quarter. The Bulldogs built on a 3-point lead as Dempsey Harris found Jaden Howard for a drive to the basket and a 5-point advantage. In the fourth, Pittsburgh freshman Kendall Elkman knocked down multiple corner threes, and Mackenzie English added a long-range shot to keep the Dragons within striking distance. Despite the late rally, Carl Junction held on to defeat Pittsburgh 53-49. Well, Carl Junction capped its Bulldog Super Night with a dominant win over Pittsburgh on the boys' side. Pittsburgh struck first behind Jamarcus Davis and Danny Durden, but the Bulldogs answered quickly with Maddox Shorter setting up Ryan Hanks inside and 1,000-point scorer Cooper Vetez sparking an early run from the perimeter. Carl Junction's offense stayed hot from deep and never let up, cruising to a 74-45 home win over the Dragons. That's it for sports, and now here's Chris with a quick look at your forecast.
Again, a bit of a cold start out there this morning. We should warm up enough to get a little more melting done before temperatures drop into the upcoming weekend. A full look at your forecast when we come back. Time for some Thursday birthdays, and we are going to begin with Elijah celebrating birthday number 7. Happy birthday.
And in Bronson, Kansas, Harlan Spain Howard is celebrating birthday number 7. Happy birthday, Harlan.
And over to Sheldon, Maddie Westerhold celebrating birthday number 8. Happy birthday.
And in Iola, Kansas, Olivia Coltrane is celebrating birthday number 13. It says, love always, Mom and Dad. Happy birthday, Olivia.
And in Pittsburgh, Brooklyn Loftmiller celebrating birthday number 17 today. Happy birthday.
And in Joplin, Shannon DeBussy is celebrating birthday number 26. Happy birthday, Shannon.
And in Neosho, Mike Steele celebrating birthday number 71 today. Happy birthday, Mike.
And in Parsons, John Bolander is celebrating birthday number 75. Happy birthday, John.
And we've got Randy and Patty Robinson celebrating their 54th anniversary in Columbus. Very happy anniversary to the Robinsons, and a happy birthday to everyone on our list. And of course, if you'd like to celebrate, it's super easy to do, isn't it?
Yes, they should just pay attention to this email that they can also see on their screen right now. It's birthdays@koamnewsnow.com. That's where you can send those photos, those birthdays, or those anniversaries for yourself or your loved ones. But you'll also want to make sure you pay plenty of attention to that deadline also on your screen, so that way we can make sure to get it in plenty of time to be able to celebrate with you on your special day.
Of course, very important information. There's some important weather information for you as well. Well, in between about 11 and 2, possibly a little later this evening as well, as a low pressure passes by us, we could get like flurry, wintry mix, little drizzle here and there. Nothing expected to add up to anything, but if you see some flakes flying or get a little drizzle, do not be surprised. This low pressure by noon is near the Tulsa area and will begin to lift off to the east-northeast, and by about 5, it's right about over Cassville, Bentonville, into parts of Berry County down there. It'll continue to lift off to the north and east. Now, here's the thing. Low pressure systems, the flow is counterclockwise. Means the winds around it move counterclockwise. And that's why we're going to get north winds by late evening and overnight, and it's going to bring in cold air once again. So it'll be mostly cloudy through a good portion of the day, mostly cloudy overnight tonight into the beginnings of our Friday. Now, Friday we're expected to be dry, a couple of flurries possible, nothing significant expected there either, but we'll have gusty north winds. So we got gusty east winds today, gusty north winds tomorrow, and we'll eventually get a little clearing done as we go into Saturday. The problem is it's not going to be any warmer. In fact, Saturday will be colder than Friday, and Friday is going to be anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees colder than what we're expecting today. So we're talking another big drop in temperatures out there, and that's what leads to some concerns this weekend that I wanted to mention with you very quickly. A lot of the main roads in many locations are fine. They've cleared out. As we showed you on the KDOT camera there south of Pittsburgh, down the middle section of the road where people don't drive, but it's still the pavement, there's snow piled up there. We're going to get some melting done today. We got some melting done yesterday, but with our temperatures taking a big dive this weekend, we have concerns about that stuff refreezing as it melts, which could lead to patchy ice across the region. So even on roads that are clear, and in some cases have been clear for a couple of days, we could have some ice concerns heading into the weekend. So again, don't not travel this weekend. It's just if you do, you need to be prepared for that and be ready to slow down and be cautious as you're traveling. So, leave a little earlier maybe, and just make sure you're driving at a good speed, a nice, slow, safe speed, watching out for that ice. As for today, not bad, low 20s to start, and then we'll go in the low 30s by 11, get some isolated flurries here and there, not out of the question. We go into the afternoon, a couple isolated flurries, drizzle will be possible. We'll have highs into the upper 30s, some low 40s down south, then east winds gusting to 20. Mostly cloudy skies through the evening hours. We're back down to the mid-teens tonight, north winds 5 to 10. And as I mentioned, this is why we have the concerns about anything that melts, or even things that, the other concerns would be slushy spots, like my way in. A lot of the neighborhood streets in Joplin are still covered in at least some snow, but as you get closer to the main roads and the intersections, some of that's cleared out a bit. It's really slushy. Well, that could turn into ice, which could cause its own problems as well, because we're only into the mid-20s tomorrow, single digits tomorrow night into Saturday night. We're into the upper teens and low 20s Saturday, upper 20s on Sunday, teens Sunday night. So again, that's why we have those concerns. We're not expecting, as you can see, any precipitation, but we could get refreezing, especially in areas that are already clear or partially or mostly clear, and then we'll have those ice concerns. So do be cautious this weekend. The good news is next week still on track for some liquid precipitation Tuesday, Wednesday, and temperatures climbing 40s, maybe even low 50s by next weekend out there. So a fantastic kind of temperature day. Well, we'll have another look at your forecast in just a moment, and when we switch over to Fox 14 at 7 a.m., the Valentine's Day staple Sweethearts is adapting to new phrases used in modern dating. All right, take a look at that at 7 a.m.
This is your Wake Up recap for January 29th. Your top stories to start your day. Warren served the Galaxy Food Mart locations in Columbus and Weir, Kansas yesterday. According to authorities, evidence was seized in connection with illegal gambling activities that were taking place at both locations. The case is part of an ongoing investigation of illegal gambling operations in southeast Kansas. The sheriff's office says their findings in the case will be submitted to the Cherokee County Attorney's Office. Well, a car overturns in a crash near Asbury yesterday morning. Just before 5 a.m., 911 received reports of a vehicle flipped over on Sumac Road, just west of Missouri 43 in Jasper County. The Missouri State Highway Patrol says the Chevy Malibu traveled off the left side of the road, hit a fence and a tree before overturning. The crash remains under investigation. That's a check of today's Wake Up Recap.
And we've got another day where we can get some melting done between 11 and 2. Could get an isolated flurry, drizzle, or a light wintry mix. Not going to add up to much, but it's a possibility as the low pressure passes by. Upper 30s, maybe some low 40s down south. East winds gusting to 20. North winds tonight 5 to 10 as that low pressure pushes east of us. We'll get those north winds on the backside. Back down into the mid-teens tonight. Tomorrow, 10, 15 degrees colder than what we're expecting today. Mid-20s. Lows in the single digits. Friday and Saturday, teens and 20s into the weekend. So we do have concerns even on the clear roadways. Anything that we do get to melt could refreeze. So do be cautious this weekend. Don't necessarily stay home this weekend, but certainly be cautious. Watch out for some patchy ice as we go through the weekend. And 40s, maybe even 50s next week. So just a few more days. We're going to get a little break from the cold.
Which will be nice, definitely.
It certainly will.
Well, thanks, Chris. Well, coming up today at noon, we're making chocolate Napoleons in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
So you mean like carvings of the guy, or
he means pastries, Chris. French pastries.
See, I'm not cultured when it comes to food, all right? I mean, I get fast food and pizza all the time. Well, that's all right, though. I'm going to learn a little something today. And, of course, your morning news continues on KOAM with CBS Mornings. NASA's mission to the moon could take off next week. Ahead on CBS Mornings, go behind the scenes to see how they're preparing for such a critical mission.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. This morning, Emily Frankowski with Connect to Culture joins us in the studio to talk about the exciting shows and performances they have coming up.
Plus, a Missouri teacher is recovering thanks in part to help from a group of high school students training to become first responders. A look at those life-saving actions. It's going to wrap it up for us for now, though. We'll be back here tomorrow morning at 5 a.m.
And we'll see you today at noon.